So it's a huge crowd, which is lovely at this time of the day. You can come closer, by the way. There's going to be a little bit of live coding, so probably want to. It should be large enough, but you know, we have so much space in the front rows. Come on, don't like hide in the back. I'm not going to ask you questions. I totally will ask you questions. No. Yeah, thank you very much, Roland, for the introduction. I'm Martin Splitt, head of engineering at Archilogic, doing a little bit of everything in the last couple of months. We started off with a tool like this. This is in a browser, so you could build and show interiors and like offices, houses, whatever, in your browser, and also like walk through them, furnish them, and also do like VR experiences in your browser based on WebVR. I'm also a Google developer expert for web technologies and Polymer. So that's something that I kind of want to bring to everyone, help them. I want to help you all to build better stuff on the web. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. If I can't answer them, I'm going to find you someone who can answer them. I also work with the Mozilla community and the web standards community. So I try to encourage everyone. Like, did you, for instance, know that all the W3C specs and stuff are on GitHub? And you can actually collaborate by opening issues or pull requests and stuff. So definitely check that out. The next time you see something where you're like, I don't think this is a good decision, bring up your comments with the standards bodies, because we all need your input. If we developers want better APIs, we have to give feedback to the browser vendors. So now comes the boring part of the presentation, which is the introduction to all of this, because we kind of want to go right into VR, but let's go over a few things that make it more like reasonable and put things into context. So first things first, there's a lot of abbreviations around there, acronyms overload, right? So we have like virtual reality, we have augmented reality, we have XR, like X reality, what? Mixed reality, and then what else is there, right? So how do these relate to each other? So let's start with something that is probably not too new. Has been around since the 1960s, actually, when the first couple of experiments started, is virtual reality. Virtual reality is basically constructing a virtual space that the user is in. So we are basically completely ignoring the real world around us. We're completely shutting it out and building our own little virtual space where you can use and wander around. Then there's augmented reality, which has become more of a buzzword recently, especially with Apple and Google putting out AR Core and AR Kit, respectively. Actually, AR Kit is Apple and AR Core is Google. There has been experiments with like markers before that, but now you can actually just use your phone. You don't need special hardware anymore. You can just use a phone that supports these two like SDKs or platforms, and then just tap on something, and then it figures out where in the space you are, so that's pretty cool. And the difference is that we are not shutting out the world. We are using the environment that you're in and adding something to it. We augment it. So for instance, you can say, one of the first apps that were probably relatively popular in Switzerland, at least. In Switzerland, we have mountains, as you might know. And the question then sometimes is, especially for like someone who's immigrated into Switzerland like me, is what mountain is that? So I would basically bore my Swiss friends to death by asking, what mountain is that? Aha, what mountain is that? Like a freaking 6-year-old. And with this augmented reality, what you could do is I could hold up my phone. My phone figures out, here's where I am. This is where I'm pointing at. So looking at a database of mountains and their positions and basically triangulating, I show you this is that mountain. This is the Zugspitze, for instance, or whatever. Like this is Mont Blanc. And you can basically just like use that. It augments my view of reality by embedding information into the surroundings that I'm in at the time. All of this is encapsulated. When we talk about both, we don't have to say VR and AR. We can say mixed reality or XR for some reason. So basically, it all encompasses both things. You can also have like other things. You can, for instance, hypothetically have VR, but embed a video feed of some other space. So then you would have to be they have a tiny little bit of virtual reality with a tiny little bit of like augmented reality, so you can mix them together. So basically, when you hear these terms, you should now know that if I talk about mixed reality or XR, I mean either virtual reality or augmented reality. More specifically, VR and AR are not excluding each other. They're not like competing in the same space. They're two different things. So a lot of people came to me in the last like year or so and asked like, Martin, do you think AR is gonna like kill VR? Or VR is gonna kill AR? I'm like, hey, do you think carrots will kill potatoes? Because it makes no sense to ask this question, really. It's not a dumb question, it's just like, we haven't done a good job explaining this. And luckily, Clay Beaver from the Google VR team has a wonderful explanation. So basically, in virtual reality, what we do is, we take you somewhere else. We are constructing a new reality that is not the reality that you are in right now. So while I'm on stage, if I go into VR, I could be on a beach, which I would really enjoy. I could be on a really, really high mountain, which I would not enjoy, because being on a high mountain in t-shirt and shorts is usually not a good idea. I could be under the sea, which I would probably also not enjoy, because I have to breathe somehow. So basically what it is a teleporter. It takes the user using virtual reality somewhere else. It can even be like a fantasy land from Alice in Wonderland. It doesn't have to be a real place. It can be anything that I make up. AR, on the other hand, brings some information, brings some data to me. So I'm not teleporting somewhere else. I'm still on stage, but I get additional information. For instance, maybe if I had like magical goggles, like, I don't know, Google Glass, HoloLens, or whatever, they could tell me, I don't know, your favorite Backstreet Boys song or something like that. Or maybe I have an app that allows me to put different things here, like have different fake, virtual people here sitting here having a panel discussion or something like that. So basically, it brings something to me. So it's like magic X-ray goggles. It shows me information that I'm not seeing normally. Like X-ray goggles would show me something that is under the surface. AR can surface information that I'm not having by just using my natural senses. So this is the difference. And now it should become clear that they're not competing. They are basically completing each other or like complementing each other really nicely. Because basically, there's two different use cases, and they're completely different. One is bringing information to me in the situation that I am right now. And you could say, like, basically, Google Maps is an augmented reality application in the broadest sense, because it tells me where to go, right? So it gives me information that I don't have at the moment. Whereas VR takes me somewhere else. Biggest difference. So what's the landscape of VR like at the moment? So what is the kind of like the market looking like? So we have the HTC Vive, for instance. This is like more or less like a high-power sports car. You have these little trackers here and here. You have to put them up. It's a little hassle to set that up, because you have to literally like bring it on the wall or put it on tripods or something. But then you can move along in the room, and the trackers track you, so you actually know where in the room you are. So you can walk around in a virtual room, which is like super cool. You have two controllers with lots of buttons and touchpads and stuff, so you can really nicely interact with your virtual environment. However, that comes as a price, and the price is quite expensive, and it's more or less the same in dollars, probably. And then we have this one. This is different. Oh, by the way, this one requires a computer that is strong enough to actually power it. So you need a gaming PC or a gaming laptop. So that laptop is probably around $1,000 as well. So like you have to add that on top. Then we have this one. This is different. First things first, it is like untethered. You have no cables here. You put your phone in, and you put that thing onto your head, and off you go. However, that has the downside that this thing does not know where in the room I am. So it can't tell this position is different than this position. Yes, sure, it has gyroscopes and stuff, but they're not accurate and fast enough to actually do this kind of tracking in a room scale. So it's going to get like imprecise, and when something doesn't add up in your brain, then you're going to vomit, which is not a nice experience. So this one, the only thing you can do is you can look around the space there you're standing or sitting. But it comes as a lower price. It's around $100, maybe even less these days. But you also have to have a Samsung phone that is compatible with it. This is the Gear VR from Samsung. There's other headsets as well. I'm just picking a few of them. There's like Daydream, there's like Oculus Rift. All these exist somewhere on the spectrum. Then we have this. Any guesses on the price? $5. The Google Cardboard is around $5. It's like, if you ship it from China, it's probably like $2, really. But it also has the downside, you don't have like any buttons, any controllers, anything, and you only have the orientation, so you can only look around. But it works with most phones, not all of the phones. If you have a potato phone OS, then that's going to be a bad time. If you have a Windows phone. Moving on. So The market in 2016, I still haven't seen numbers for last year, so I'm waiting for the numbers for last year. I was basically like frantically checking Google, like, are the numbers out for 2017? They're not. OK, fine. I'm going to go with the numbers for the previous year, for 2016. So here we see how many of these devices have been sold. And you see, like, Oculus Rift is around like 450,000, HTC Vive around like 480, 500,000 devices. PlayStation VR a little over 600,000 devices. Daydream that just came out this year, so it's a little bit like comparing apples to oranges because Daydream basically came out in Q3 of that year. So they'd only got like 2 quarters instead of the full 4 quarters, so it sold like a few 100,000 devices. And Gear VR that has been around the longest probably together with Oculus Rift has been around like a couple of million, 2.2 million devices sold. And so you can draw conclusions from this. So if you think about it, this is like the high-end VR experience. You have to have a gamer PC, like a really strong graphics engine in there. You have to set up the room for it, and you have to like buy this hardware. That is, I think the Rift is now like $300 or $400 or something like that. The HTC Vive still a little more, like $600, $700. And these require a bunch of effort, and you really have to really want it, because you have to like buy hardware for it. And then we have the mobile VR here. And you can tell by the Gear VR that mobile is probably the thing that people are OK with, and like around $100 is what they are OK with spending for. And then surprisingly, game consoles, I just have that in for the, for the fun conclusion that gaming consoles apparently are also something that people want to invest in for new gear in for. So this looks like Gear VR is by far the most popular player in the market, or has been the most popular player in the market in 2016. Can you tell me which one is missing here? Cardboard. So why did I forget that? Well, I didn't forget it. It's just, it's changing the graph a little. So we had, and that's like estimated numbers, like that's a conservative estimation, because a lot of devices that are not technically cardboards are actually cardboards. Like you can get like plastic versions of a cardboard, which is not really counting towards this number, but we get like 80 to, no, sorry, what is the number? Wait, there's too many zeros. I keep getting confused. Yes, it's like 80-something million devices out there. So you could say, yeah, the high end is where I go for. This is what I should build for, because you can build amazing experiences. But then your users are less likely to have them. So what we have to keep in mind is we are at a stage, and this is probably still true today, it's changing, but we're still not there yet, that the market is mostly low-end VR explorers, which is cool because we actually haven't figured out how to do VR, like what we can all do with VR in total. Like we haven't even understood what the medium can deliver so far. And the same goes for AR as well. So basically, XR is unexplored territory, so we need some time to basically build stuff and try things out. And we can do that because users are willing to spend a little money to try it out with us. But we have to understand that the capabilities are the minimum capabilities. We're not having like 2 controllers and room scale tracking where you can like, oh my God. No, we are at the very, very beginning, so bear in mind that most people are actually running cardboards these days still. And I think the web is the best platform to start exploring. For the simple reason that the web, as web developers, we have learned to not expect much from the devices we are on. We don't know where a browser is running. It could be a fridge. It could be a watch. It could be a potato. Who knows, right? If it has a browser, it can run the web. So unlike native developers who are like, no, I know the screen size is like this. And I remember the day when the 2 different screen-sized iPhones came out, and the iOS department in a company that I worked for at the time just went bananas. Like, 2 screen sizes, who can deal with that? Right? We're going to need the next 2 months to actually refactor all our application layouts. And I'm like, how's the web team doing? We're like, what? Oh, we're done. Solved. So the same goes for VR, because we don't know what kind of device we're having. And even if we would know what kind of device we're having, there's a lot of assumptions we can't make. The controllers from the Vive. You have 2 controllers, so I can totally do like, oh yeah, you start the game by dragging something open with 2 controllers. That's cool, but the controllers are wireless, so they have to charge every now and then. So imagine the experience of a user having one thing in the charger base somewhere, and then going like, I'm going to play this game. Start the game by dragging with 2 hands. It's not working, right? It's not a good experience. So basically, we know how to deal with responsive capabilities. We have to deal with what we can build and then basically enhance until we reach the level of the capabilities of the hardware that we are running on. And I think the web is perfect for that. And everything that has a browser is able to basically display content. So we can figure out a way to actually make all our content responsive. So for instance, if you're coming to my page with a Netscape navigator, I might show you an image of a building instead, like a 3D image, a JPEG image. Your Netscape navigator can probably deal with that. Cool. And then if you're coming with a more modern browser on a desktop without any VR hardware or on a phone, you get a 3D thing that you can like use the mouse and keyboard or touch screen to navigate around. And then you have a button that you press, and then you go into VR and actually experience it as if you were there. That's pretty cool. And the web is basically the perfect platform because it fits the paradigm so well. Also, the other thing is if I build something for, let's say, Vive or Oculus, and then I build something, and let's say I have like a paint application where you can like paint something, and it's like, I want to show this to you, and then maybe you want to add something to it. But then you have a cardboard. That's sad, right? So the only way to actually collaborate or share would then be to take my wonderful 3-dimensional scene and take a picture of that and send you a picture. What's the point of that? Right? So I think the web is flexible enough to do that. But the question is, can we even like do 3D graphics on the web? And the answer is yes, heck yes. Like WebGL has been around since 2011, so most browsers support it. Opera doesn't support it because it is usually relatively, Opera Mini doesn't support it because the 3D content is usually pretty heavy on data, and they don't want that kind of data, so they're not supporting it so that you have to then deal like, okay, right, I'll give you the image version, here you go. And that's perfectly fine. That's a reasonable assumption. So 86.5% of the global browser users actually are capable of displaying 3D graphics, interactive 3D graphics in the browser with no plugins required. That's pretty cool. But for WebVR, we need something else. So basically, we do need actually WebGL to render things, to display 3D content. But VR or XR, AR, whatever, needs something else on top of that, because we need access to the devices. We need access to other information, like the sensor information, the controllers. We need all that, and that's exactly what the WebXR API and the WebVR API before that are about. So it gives us information, is there a headset available? On a phone, it usually says yes, because you have cardboards. So we can't really detect that, because you just put your phone into a piece of cardboard. But basically, the assumption is yes, you have a headset. You could go into VR if you wanted. It also checks if we have information of where in the room you are, which you do have on higher-end devices, or at least where you're looking at the moment, the orientation of the user's field of view. And it exposes the controller, so we can actually work with this. So don't confuse the WebVR or the WebXR APIs as something that renders 3D graphics. It does not. It's the only thing that it does is it gives us access to the headsets and send like image data there. It gives us the orientation and position of the user, if available, and it exposes any possible controllers using the gamepad API. So that's pretty much it. It does not create 3D graphics. We have to do something else to get 3D graphics, and that is what WebGL is for. I see that often confused. It is 2 different things. And this is also why it's so responsive, because we can start with a 3D experience. So yesterday I had a workshop on WebVR at the Sentosa Shangri-La thing, hotel. And I was telling, like, yes, this is all VR ready, but we're not going to test it because it's just like putting up more time. We would need more time to like put it on the headset and see if it looks good and then go back to the computer and refresh. But because it is basically just sending more information to us so that we can actually change our camera and stuff like that, we can just start with a 3D experience and then enhance VR or AR on top of it, which is exactly what we want, because we can't expect that all of our users want to be in VR all the time. We don't know that. Now, the WebVR API currently exists in version 1.1, 2.0 coming out soon. It's going to be renamed. It's going to be called the WebXR API, the Immersive Devices API or something like that. So it's going to be renamed because in version 2.0, we are also addressing other mixed reality concerns. So we are also having AR in there. So we are moving from VR to a broader API that also supports AR in one set of APIs so that you don't have to worry about this, which is nice. But the VR 1.1, WebVR 1.1 implementation is a little lacking so far. But what's cool is a few browsers shipped it in production already. You have Firefox since version 55 shipping it. Chrome for Android is shipping it since Chrome for Android 59. There are builds for Chromium that actually support it, but in April we're going to ship, or we're going to hopefully see WebXR APIs shipping in Chrome regular on desktops as well. And holy moly, Edge is shipping them. What? Right? So yeah, I think that's pretty cool actually. And not only them, so like we have seen Edge, we have Samsung Internet ships them as well. We have Carmel, which is an experimental browser from Facebook for Oculus, definitely. There's a Chrome version, there's Chromium version, there's Chrome for Android shipping it. Firefox Nightly has had it for ages already. And then there's the odd one out, there's Servo. Servo has support for WebXR as well. And it's like super cool because they're proposing an addition to WebGL that makes it even faster and better and nicer. So that's pretty exciting. So we have it available on many, many, many devices already. And it's only going to be more devices having this support soon. It's an open standard. It's not one company doing it. All vendors. I hear that someone has joined the working group from Safari, so Safari's team is also on the working group. They're not signaling much yet, but they are on the working group, which is a good sign, I would say. But it's an open standard where all the vendors are working together to bring us in a set of APIs, and they work together with Oculus and HTC and Samsung and all the other companies that make headsets for us as well. So that's pretty exciting. Daydream supports it as well, so that's like really nice. And there's so much tooling and a really strong community going on. Like, whenever you're having a question, you pop into a Slack that is like dedicated to WebXR or one of the libraries, and everyone's like super keen to help you. There's like lots of activity on Stack Overflow for all these things, lots of tutorials available, so you can get started relatively quickly. And it is just easier to create and share. A coworker of mine has tried to do it with Unity, and Unity is a perfectly fine tool. Unity is an amazing tool for when you want to do what Unity does. So if you're a game developer, Unity is a great way to like quickly build a game that is cross-platform. That's amazing. It also exports to WebGL, also amazing. However, the developer cycle is different because you code, you compile, you take your you take your headset, you put it on, you're like, ah, damn, I made a stupid mistake here. You put it down, you go back to your computer, you like rewrite, you recompile, you rerun. You know, it takes a little while to get that going. The cycle is quite slow, actually. So basically, with the web, you just like write the code, try it out, oh shit, fix it, reload, oh shit, still not good, and then you basically iterate really quickly over that. This is how you get started. No, just kidding. This is another concern. Like everyone's like super concerned that it's super hard to get started. That's not true anymore. So let's quickly try this. I tried this for like 1 minute, and then we're gonna have to move on, unfortunately. So here I have a very, very boring website, and I have the code for this very, very boring website. But I load two libraries. I load Mozilla's A-Frame, and I load our library, shameless plug, the 3D.io library. And I have something here that looks suspicious, right? I have something here called an A-scene. So what can I do when I have an A-scene? What I can do is I can create entities. Basically, this is like a stage. This is an empty stage, and I can put something on this stage. I can say, I want the geometry to be a box. And I want a material that has a color red. And now I want to move this around on the stage, so maybe I say, like, and all of these numbers are meters, because that's the metric system is a sensible system. So I don't want to move it to the left or to the right. I don't want to move it up or down, but I want to move it 2 meters into the screen. And now if I refresh, ta-da, there's a red box. Now, this is not an exciting demo, but I have a VR button here, so I can go into VR if I would have a VR headset. But what's really cool is A-Frame has a bunch of developer tools. So we get a full-blown 3D editor as developer tools in here. And that allows me to like move the box around. So I can move it here and there, and then I go back and, hey, look at that, the box has moved. I can also change things about this box. So I don't want a box, I want a, I don't know, torus knot. Boom. Here we go, we have a torus knot. Cool. I don't know why you would want that, but go ahead. I don't judge. I don't like the color, so hey, how about we make this like bluish? And I don't like that it's not very metally and shiny. I want this to be shinier. So I would go, and where's the metalness parameter? Here it is. Here we go. Like we make this like super shiny. Hey, we have a shiny thing now. And you can basically build your application like this. You can explore. And what I can also do is I can go like, hey, 3D.io people did something for me here. So I can drag and drop something that they built and just use it in my application. And if the Wi-Fi holds up, yes, here we are. We can go back in and, hey, look at that. There's a weird torus knot in an apartment that you might know. We can stand in Sheldon's spot just to, anger him. So it's really easy to get building really, really quickly. And you don't have, I don't have to know any math here. I basically just add HTML tags. And that's more or less it. So I can say, hey, maybe I want to copy out what I just built in here. So I can go here. Oh, that's the light. That's not what I wanted. I can go here, and I can just go, OK, I want to copy this into my code now. And then I paste this into my code. And if I refresh, hey, look at that. Ta-da. Right? So this is a really, really nice and fast way to get going and basically start building things with no big deal and no big pain. So this is really nice to get started, and actually you can build really exciting applications with it. You can build production-ready applications with A-frame, and that's actually pretty important. So as I said, this is not just VR and 3D. This is also going to have AR capabilities thanks to the API broadening up in version 2 to be an XR API. So that's exciting. And you can do things like this. Oh no, the video is loading again. Anyway, this is a AR application. We have, oh, look at that. So here we are in Zurich, and we're basically plotting out where the walls of this wonderful room are. And this is an open source demo. You can basically clone that from GitHub. If you ask me for the URL, I'm happy to share that later on. And then we say where a door is. So here's a door, ta-da. And then there's another door, ta-da, which is like a super weird living room, but OK, let's go for it. You get a floor plan based on that, and then you can say, I want to furnish this. And using our API, you get furniture. And you see, like, this is AR. We are in a real-world context, and we're adding information to it. And this is on a phone, and this is on a browser. So this demo is actually available. You need an experimental browser right now, but that's going to change in the near future. So here we go. AR settled. There's going to be an interesting talk on that by Jérôme Etienne later today. There's more stuff out there. There's the A-frame school that gets you going with A-frame really quickly. There's the app creator 3D.io. That's our thing that gets you like a playground environment. I actually do videos together with my coworkers that explain you all the important things, all the steps that you need to do. We have a bit of a blog, shameless plug. There's an amazing group, the WebXR Asia group on Facebook. You want to join them and basically connect to your local community because they're awesome people that want to help you face-to-face. So definitely go there and check it out and also exchange ideas and stuff. And I want you to build stuff with this. If this is the one takeaway that you take away, make it the following. If the computer is the bicycle for our mind, which accelerates our natural abilities, then VR is a teleporter, and it can take you anywhere. And now is the time to start exploring. So build something and show me what you built. I want to see what you all are coming up with, and there's so much to explore. And thank you so much for listening to me and coming out this early in the morning. And I'm around the entire day for questions, and I'll be at the Mozilla booth, I think, for questions as well. And definitely come talk to me and show me what you build, and I'm like super excited to see what's going to happen next in this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.